I grew up not having any father figure in my life, and when I was about 8, I started asking who my father was. At first, my mom was very evasive on the subject and finally gave me his name. I instantly realized it was my uncle's name and started asking questions. My father has never acted as a father to me. From what my mom has told me, when she told him she was pregnant, he wanted nothing to do with it, and I believe he essentially wanted me aborted. Edit. Whether you want to look down on my mother for this is up to you. Believe me, I have had all the arguments, the name-calling, and let out my view on her doing that over the years. I can't understand why she would have got in that situation. But she thought she was in love, and even though I don't understand, it's happened and it's in the past. I have no relationship with him. I have never received a gift from him, cards for birthdays or Christmas, etc., directly from him or had no direct communication. He spoke to a lawyer when I was a baby who apparently told him to give the bare minimum in terms of financial support. This would mean my mom wouldn't have to go via court to force financial assistance. This figure was less than what the official child support system would have him pay. But I think my mother felt so guilty for what she had done behind her sister's back and felt so ashamed that she didn't pursue it. My point of this post is to ask for advice about what to do. Up until a few years ago, I thought maybe I would just keep this secret for the rest of my life from my dad's other children and my other cousins. They probably think my mother had a one-night stand and the man disappeared. I know my father and his wife are adamant they should never find out. All of his children are now grown-ups, between 18 and 28, and therefore I don't see why this should be kept secret for my father's benefit and for my auntie who doesn't want to bring up the topic. My mother and my auntie have put this behind them and actually have a good relationship as sisters. They remain close. I believe this is maybe because our side of the family are Catholic and we don't have much family drama. I've always been treated well by my auntie. She has given me Christmas cards and small gifts, stuff like toiletries and pajamas. I don't want to upset her, as she is an innocent party to this, as I am, but I am so tired from being the family secret. My father has worked a decent job and over a number of years has built up a business of buying properties to be rented out. I never knew how many properties were actually being managed until a conversation with my half-sister 3 years ago. We sat at dinner and she essentially boasted how her and her brothers don't need to worry about the future as they will be able to use the property portfolio in the future to support themselves financially. I've mulled on this for a long time, and I'm at the point where I want to tell my half-sister everything. She is the one I grew up closest to. For the past few years, since that conversation of her telling me about his assets, I felt pissed off that he could have done more financially, and I felt more guilt from hiding the fact that we are not just cousins from my half-sister. After her telling me about the property portfolio our father has, I sat there, thinking this man has acted like he doesn't have enough money to give to my mom for me. My mom could barely afford to look after me growing up, and I missed out on stuff because we couldn't afford it. When I got to about 15, he conveniently kept forgetting to send my mom the support check he was meant to. It would be Christmas time, and he would be up at their house. On our departure, my mom would have to usher him and remind him to pay up in front of me. I didn't know any of these conversations had happened until recently, but when I went to university, my mom asked if he could help. His response was that he has 4 other kids to pay for and that he won't. She has also asked him if he will leave anything for me as inheritance. He told her it's none of her business and only said, "How do you know I won't leave her anything?" Which I view as a cop-out and believe I will never receive anything if he has his way. There is no legal documentation of me being his child. I also asked to have him on my birth certificate 2 years ago and he refused to even discuss it. My mom had to then unexpectedly turn up at his house to try to have a conversation about it. He refused again, and my auntie refused to let the conversation happen under her house. As the situation goes, this is currently a lose-lose situation for me. I have already lost out on having a father figure growing up. My father won't acknowledge me as his child, and I have grown up having to keep this secret from my half-siblings for his benefit. In return, I have had minimal financial assistance and will probably never receive anything in inheritance. He has refused to put his name on my birth certificate or let his own family, his mother, his sisters, etc., find out about me. Sadly, his mother passed away last year from cancer. He also lost a sister a few years ago from cancer, and whilst I know they had good relationships with my half-siblings, they never knew I existed as his daughter. Just because he wants to keep this as a secret doesn't suit me anymore. I've matured and realized I'm not protecting my half-siblings from anything. They would be shocked, but this wasn't my fault, and I shouldn't have to keep up a facade for the sake of a man who doesn't care. This may seem like I only care about the money. This is not true. I have accepted that I will likely get nothing from him. However, I want to sit my half-sister down and tell her the truth. Once he passes, and it turns out he left me nothing, he may look heartless if they do know by that stage we are siblings. If this were you, how would you deal with the situation, and how would you tell your family? In reality, I don't expect anything financially. I don't want to go down a route of blackmail either. I don't see why I should still be a secret. This is still a very emotional subject for me. I used to not be able to talk about it without breaking down, and genuinely thought his actions of disregarding me reflected my value in the world. There was a point in my teenage years I used to cry myself to sleep. Now I'm in my 20s. I've processed it a lot more and can see why people may have chosen to keep me secret. But I'd rather it be in the open. I'm closest to my half-sister. We are only a year apart, and she is the one I would probably tell. I can back it up with a DNA test if she's skeptical. I know I should also speak to a lawyer if I go down the inheritance route. But before I do, I want to know other people's views and maybe get some advice. In regards to any potential inheritance, as people are bringing it up, I live in the UK and I am entitled to his assets as his other children, though he may have written me out of his will or leave me £1. It's easy to say I'm greedy whilst looking at it, but I've been carrying this burden emotionally. I will never have a relationship with him in that way. He's made it clear, and I don't want it either. Whether you view that as greedy is up to you, but as I said, I'm currently in a lose-lose situation. Also, I would not want to go after his assets now whilst he's alive. Trying to go after back payments of child support, etc., would just cause a lot of drama, although I see why people are suggesting it. My mom contacted a lawyer 2 years ago after my dad refused to put his name on my birth certificate. The lawyer said my mom can obtain backdated bank statements showing him sending her biannual checks, and this could be used in the future, as well as the knowledge within my family of him being my father, which could be used in the future in court to dispute a will. Only my mother's own siblings know about this. I don't believe their own children do. There is also the option to take a DNA test. I could do this to prove to my half-siblings that what I am saying is true. My mother did write to my father when she first told me about him being my father. She never told me I couldn't tell anyone, so I tried to tell my half-sister. She asked my father, who denied it. I also tried to bring it up in front of my half-sister again, when she was with some kids from my father's side of the family. This was in front of my maternal grandmother, who also denied it. We were only about 8 years old, but those shoot-downs were enough to make me believe I should never try to tell anyone again and forget it. I believe my grandmother only denied it because she was put on the spot and didn't know what else to say, as we were all children. My whole family will continue to go on about life like we are cousins unless I decide to reveal the truth. The last time I saw my father was 5 years ago, as I now avoid visiting, partly because this situation upsets me and partly because I feel guilty for keeping this secret, as I also see his kids when I'm there. He would sit there asking me a few questions about my job, life, and I have to sit and politely answer in front of my family without being able to acknowledge the truth or ask him the questions I really want to know the answers to. This is such a unique family situation that I can't just Google an answer. I just really need some advice on how to deal with it. I don't want to cause drama in my family and don't want to upset my auntie, but I'm sure there will be a lot of shock and possible anger. My half-siblings are old enough to know, and I want them to. I am not a secret and shouldn't have to feel like I need to continue in life not sharing this information with them. I would hugely appreciate others' perspective on how I should deal with this. I mean this as kindly as I possibly could be in this situation. You seem delusional. You say your mom and your sister have a close relationship and there isn't any drama on your side of the family. Your mother ducked your sister's husband. That is the definition of drama. You also seem to think you will make this big reveal and everyone will be welcoming you as a half-sibling. More than likely, they will hate you for forcing them to see their father in a not-so-favorable light. They would have to acknowledge that both of their parents lied to them their whole life. They will also hate your mother. I'm not saying you shouldn't tell them. I just think you need to prepare yourself as much as you can that you are going to tear your entire family apart. This is all 100% the fault of your mother and your father. They chose to cheat, they chose to lie. Your mother cruelly chose to tell you the truth, but expected you to carry the burden of the truth with you your entire life. I really am sorry the adults in your life failed you so horribly. You may want to talk through all of this with a therapist before you decide to approach your cousin/sister. It's very easy for people to say to just cut ties with her father and start a new life. How will you feel if you were in her shoes? Do you know the meaning of bastard? No one wants to be that. Everyone in this world wants to have a father, at least on a birth certificate. Her aunt knows the truth. She is selfish and only thinks of herself. What about OP? Her life was miserableness because of these irresponsible people in her life. She deserves justice. He has to pay for all of these. It's not revenge, it's called getting recognized. Her father didn't recognize her up until now. What do you think will change? Yes, there might be a way to force him legally to acknowledge his daughter, but there will never be a father-daughter relationship, and forcing him might bring the rest of the family against her. At least if money is involved. That's hardly worth it. I might not know what it means to be a bastard, but I do know what it means to be unwanted. The easiest way is to accept it and move on. Yes, it takes time, but in the end, it's, in my opinion, the only way to happiness. Everything else will end in misery for OP. No, you are wrong. It's not even about having a father-daughter relationship. It's about her identity. It's about having a father's name on her birth certificate. When his other children had all luxuries in life while she was denied. How is it fair to her? Her auntie and other siblings might turn against her, but they will understand one day that it's not her mistake and she had all the right to do so. If you feel that she should not fight for the right to her father's money, then you pay her that much money. If you cannot, then shut up. I disagree with you. Having her father's name in her birth certificate won't give her an identity. She already has one. She has a mother, a family, and she knows who her father is. The birth certificate is just a piece of paper. It's a proxy for being recognized. He won't do that voluntarily. And if it's forced, it won't change anything. And yes, she may deserve some of that money. I'm not denying that. She can go after it. She will get some inheritance if she wants it, but probably at the price of her family turning against her. Is that fair? Hell no. OP did nothing wrong. Her father, aunt, and others did. If she goes for the money, she should be aware of the consequences. I was with X for about 3 years. During the 3 years, we talked about baby names. X came up with reasons he hated my name ideas until I didn't even like them anymore. X then said that he had an uncle Chris, so he wanted to name our firstborn either Christopher or Christine. I loved both names. X and I broke up due to him asking for a pass to cheat on me. Over 2 years after the split, I had a one-night stand. The next morning, we realized that he was related to X. They aren't close. I saw this other guy twice in the 3 years X and I dated. Didn't remember him at all, and it was a total coincidence. I got pregnant from the one-night stand. I told the guy, who said if I decided to keep the baby, he wouldn't be involved and needed his identity kept private. I agreed. I kept the baby. I named her Christine. I know how it sounds, but I forgot about X's uncle. X had put me off the other names I liked, and outside of him, I loved the name. Christine is now 13 months old. X and his wife have a son, Christopher, who is about 6 months old. A month ago was Christine's first birthday. I made a cake that said Happy Birthday Christine and posted it online. It was shared by enough friends that it got all the way around to X and wife. Wife messaged me 4 days ago demanding a paternity test on Christine. I blocked her, and X began asking for the test to prove he isn't the dad, as wife is apparently threatening divorce over this. Wife's reason for wanting the test. Christine's bio dad is unknown. Christine and X are both blonde. X has a history of cheating, and she says I wouldn't have used Christine for a child that wasn't X's. I told them X is not Christine's father, refused the test, and blocked them both on Facebook. They've since tried to contact me directly and through mutual friends. About 5 hours ago, wife knocks on my door and yells that she'll stay until I come out. So boyfriend steps out and tells her to leave. Wife shows him that she's got one of those paternity test kits that they mail to you and you send back. Boyfriend says Christine is not X's child, and she needs to leave. Wife only left when boyfriend threatened to call the police. I don't even know how she got my address. About 4 hours ago, someone sends me a screenshot of wife's Facebook page. She posted that I am trying to ruin her marriage by claiming that Christine is X's kid, which I never did, then refusing a paternity test, which I did do. Everyone seems to believe her, except for a handful of friends who replied to her post saying that Christine isn't X's kid. Wife has blocked all of them. I have no idea what to do. Wife is dragging me through the mud online, and I've received a bunch of hateful messages from her friends, family. I can't allow the DNA test because it'll reveal that X is related to Christine through the actual father and out the bio dad in the process. What do I do? Is there a way out of this that doesn't involve taking the test? Is there anything I can say, do to fix this without the test?